August 26th at 6 p.m. We have Roger Brooks, who's going to do our invocation for us, and then Brent is going to do our American flag, and Heidi's going to do our Texas flag. Roger?
Everybody face the American flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Danielle, it's good to see you today. Something like that. To my very far left on the end down there, your very far right, we have Heidi Souls, your Citizen of the Year, Mind of the Year, all that good stuff. To the right of Heidi, we have our City Council member and EDC Vice President, Brent McWaters. And to the right of him, we have obviously our community service, our community development director. We call him our EDC director because that's just how we utilize him all the time, Andrea Oliverio. And then to my right, we have our awesome city secretary. We're going to call her Miss March for right now. So we're trying to get her to stay till March. She was trying to leave us. Our awesome city secretary, Alex Rios. To the right of Ms. Rios is our treasurer, Chuck Thompson. And our newest member to the right, obviously, is Michelle Wyatt. And the guy that I introduce the same way all the time, the infamous and famous Mike Michael. Public comments. Any public comments? No public comments? Number 3 is new business spotlight. And we have Comcast here, I know. And anyone else, Danielle?
If I could ask Danielle to highlight a few new businesses and ribbon cuttings and things like that, and then I will yield our time
Let's start
over
with
to
that.
Comcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Danielle?
Hello, board. How are y'all?
Turn the mic.
Oh.
If anyone knows, she should know.
Hi, board. How are y'all doing today? So I did want to highlight some businesses that we have. So Dose Mexico, they did their ribbon cutting on August 22nd. So if y'all don't know, they did come to our chamber luncheon. I want to say it was June or July. It was her husband, and their business partner. So it was great to see them. They did have a soft opening, but they did their major grand opening on the 22nd. It was great to be there, see their family there, and just, the community was there. It was great to see everybody just join in with them. They were very happy, and there were a lot of tears because it looked like it was a great accomplishment for them as a family to be able to open their business. So it was really cool to see them do that, and it was awesome. And then also we have the Mirasa Automotive. They are going to be conducting their ribbon cutting on August 31st. That's going to be at 12 p.m. So if y'all have time, y'all can go by there. And then we do have the new auto service that did open on 307 South Washington. They're right next to Bye Bite, which Bye Bite did just open as well. They have not neither of them have done their ribbon cutting. I'm going to be getting them in contact with the chamber to see if they are wanting to do that, or if they are wanting to participate with the chamber as well. kind of just get those two businesses connected with them as well. And then just to keep y'all, you know, in the loop, we do have our chamber luncheon happening on September 5th. That is going to be for the Teacher of the Year luncheon, so y'all please join us if y'all can. Y'all will be getting an email from me as well, just urging y'all to join me that day as well. But yeah, that's all I have for y'all today. And then we have Comcast that is going to be highlighting. We met with them as well. Great team. It was great to have conversations with them, and we're excited to have them come into the city. And I'm going to pass it over to Emilio so we can go into more details about that.
Do we have any, prior to that, do we have any questions for Danielle?
Oh, yeah.
Any other businesses or anything like that? I do have one on
Yes.
our EDC tablecloths.
Yes, so
And
I
city tablecloths.
Yes, I did order those already. I went with good promotions. I went ahead and touched base with them. So we're going to be getting 2 tablecloths for EDC and then 1 for the city as well. So they will have our logo, so we can just kind of have those identified for us, as well as I'm going to be making reserve signs for both tables, well, for all 3 tables also.
So and y'all don't know, I got with Danielle and Emilio on this last week, was it, or something like that? And just asked if we could go ahead and get some tablecloths for the chamber tables, this person recognition, that kind of thing. And obviously, did we decide on navy blue? I forget what.
Yes,
what
so
it
we're going to
was.
do navy blue and then white lettering. So that's kind of different, stand out, and then, yeah, we'll go from there. So, but yeah, if y'all have any other questions or any other ideas that y'all might want.
The pamphlets. are
So
English
pamphlets, we
and
are
Spanish.
going to wait to get those printed because I'm going to be setting up for everybody to do headshots. And I need everybody's updated headshots and everybody's updated photos. So I will let y'all know when those dates come out for us to have those scheduled. Once I have those scheduled, we will get everybody on those pamphlets. What I think I'm going to do is probably come back and present those pamphlets to you all one more time because I think the demographics are probably going to change on there as far as updated information, just to get it one last time finalized since we're already towards the end of the year. I want to make sure we are still good with that because I don't want to order them and then in a couple of months things change and we have a bulk of information and then it's outdated. So I want to make sure we, you know, if we're going to order them, it's going to be there for a while because I don't want to order too many, kind of get a good idea of how we're going to order them, if we should do it quarterly or how often we need to get these orders. So I'll probably bring them up to the board one last time to get them finalized, make sure everybody's happy with the information that's on there, or if y'all want to add or change anything. And then once we get that finalized, we'll make our final order and then we'll have those placed. I'm going to touch base with the chamber to see if we can have them out in their lobby as well as during our chamber luncheons, have those put out on the tables. And then just in the businesses around town, just have them placed in different businesses. And it's also, I think, we want to have them placed for us. And Mr. Buckley's, I don't know.
And I apologize, but I actually know all the answers to all of these, but sometimes I am also bad about not relaying them to every single member, so it's going to be a little easier to kind of do it this way. Because
no worries.
Danielle has to, unfortunately, for her, deal with me quite often. So.
It is perfectly fine. Yes. And if you have
The
any
business
questions-
there next to the urgent care in the building.
Yes, so right now that is, what we have is that is a metal building. I am in contact with the GC bid is there. We are waiting on some further information only because I have to get their TOBO and have their plans reviewed by our civil engineer because they are wanting to add some other details to there. So before I can release any other further information on what is actually happening there, I gotta wait to have that reviewed by our civil engineer. So until then, I can provide y'all updates on what that building is and what's happening there. So.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. And if y'all ever need anything, y'all can always shoot me an email or give me a call. I'm always available.
Appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am. Comcast. I was privileged to meet this lady at our breakfast, or whatever, coffee with mayor. Very informative, and so she is going to give us her spiel.
Thank you very much. My name is Jessica Beamer, and I'm here on behalf of the Government Affairs team for Comcast Xfinity Comcast Business. a telecommunications company that had its start in a small town just a few states over in Tupelo, Mississippi. Tonight I brought with me from my left to right Jared Doherty on our construction team, Dion Burnham, our business development, James Odom, sales team, and then Jason Ovalle also on our sales team. Together we make up some of the integral parts of our Comcast network expansion team. We are expanding to Cleveland. If you didn't know, now you do. We are looking forward to bringing reliable and dependable internet, phone, TV streaming, home security services. And in my past life, I served as the chief of staff for the city of Houston's Mayor Pro Tem, Dave Martin. I was on his team for about 10 years and understand the challenges that are presented when new construction is brought into a city firsthand. Our team is committed to being open, transparent, and leaving the community the same, if not better, than when we arrived. And so we're committed as each individual that we will respond to phone calls, emails, Facebook messages, whatever the communication method is preferred, we're happy to answer those. During the construction project, we will continue that responsiveness, and we're already participating, as Mr. Williams said, in community coffees, chamber luncheons. Love to highly encourage you to attend the one on October 3rd. We will be kind of taking over and doing a construction show and tell. So I'll be bringing members of our tech ops team that will do fiber splicing. We'll have our business partners coming out with the actual pedestal so you'll be able to see the infrastructure that will be placed in and around your community. Construction team will talk about the actual construction process. We'll have a boring rig on site so that you can see what different equipment that will be out on the roadways and within the neighborhoods. So you'll have your eyes on exactly what's coming out. We don't want there to be any surprises. We want to make sure that all questions are answered in a timely manner. I encourage you to check out texas.comcast.com/expansion for an amazing business profile our communications team just finished on the Crossing Coffee Shop. Additionally, on that website, you can find expansion information, contacts in the event that there is damage. It's construction. No construction project is ever perfect. So we do have that communication already there, and it's clevelandclaims@theaspencompany.com. And that's all on our website. So again, that website is texas.comcast.com/expansion. In closing, I'd like to thank the City of Cleveland, the Greater Cleveland Chamber, and now the Economic Development Board for a warm welcome. We've really enjoyed getting to know the community as we're just coming in and look forward to future partnerships. And we hope to be the established partner of choice for all of your communication, entertainment, and security needs in the Cleveland community. So with
So
that,
for questions,
yeah.
of course, the number one question I'm sure is going to be, what is Comcast going to cover? What areas? Give us an outline of our city.
I don't have a map with me at the moment,
That's okay.
but we are going to cover a majority of the city limits, and some stuff outside of the city limits as well. I'm sure I can get over something to be shared with y'all, kind of a little bit more specific than that. But without having a map, it's kind of hard to say. But it's going to be a majority of the city of Cleveland.
Is there a rough timeline, construction phases or anything like that? I'm sure you already have that.
Yeah, we're still pending some permits. We do have some permits.
If you don't mind, we step.
Yeah, no problem. We're still pending permits. We have received some. Our timeline, we're looking to have the project completed anywhere from 4 to 6 months at the best case, but stuff can drag on or take longer if we see any challenges. But we're hoping to have everything wrapped up within 6 months at the latest.
Any specific areas of Cleveland that you know is not going to be covered?
Not at the moment, but I can follow up.
Outside of Cleveland, there's a lot more rural areas. Do y'all plan on expanding out that way in the future, or?
Yeah, if it's not covered by the current build, this build is going to serve as what we refer to as a tie point for future builds. So when we come up here, then new neighborhoods will develop and build, and then we'll now be able to service those neighborhoods. And if there's other communities that maybe were missed on the initial project, we will definitely look at bringing our services to those as well. Yeah.
So hopefully to Tarkington sometime soon. I mean, I just know people that might want Comcast out.
I do have that in my notes. I do have it
I'm
on
sure she
hand.
does. Not that that would benefit me in a whole.
Any other questions related specifically to construction at all, or?
Nope.
Cool. All right, well, I'll try to get you a map that you can kind of see the general area that we're working on. Hopefully I'll have something back to you by the end of the week.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Comcast from anyone? Nope. And you're gonna, and that's gonna be cable, internet, everything.
Yes.
I guess, is there any pricing that's available? Is it going to be specific to this area? It's pretty much the general pricing that's already available to commercial customers.
If you don't mind, please come up here to the microphone. Our audio system currently is not the greatest, and if you don't have the mic 2 inches from your face, nobody on that television can hear you. So,
Being fixed though, right?
it's being fixed. We are getting that taken care of. Go ahead, sir.
James again. So as far as pricing is concerned, that is not been totally decided. It should be within the scope of pricing that we're currently at. That will be made available to you soon after construction in the next couple of months. So definitely look at that.
So you're not really anticipating anything different than what the average Comcast bill
Well,
is now?
there's pricing that differs for residential versus
Commercial, of course.
Yeah, so it's going to depend upon that. And we have a couple of different types of products as well. So I can kind of send a whole layout that will speak to that.
We all be offering landlines also.
From what I understand, landlines as well as our internet services, whether that is more on a coax side or more on a fiber side, as well as Voice Edge, which is our phone system, as well. So a conglomerate of different products as far as that's concerned, depending upon what the needs of the customer is, of course.
And y'all still do alarm systems and stuff too? And
That is not in my wheelhouse, so I think some of that is happening on a residential side, so I don't have a direct answer to that for you, but I get for it. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Y'all do have the lower bandwidth for the low to moderate income.
Yes, sir.
You've got
Yeah.
the opportunity, and that's, how much is that roughly to that program?
Internet Essentials Partner Program.
There you go.
Can you, yes, please, thank you very much, ma'am.
The Internet Essentials Partner Program is our low-cost option for lower income families. It starts at about $9.99, and there's an additional, if you want more, but you still have that, you're counting your pennies, there's one for $29.99. And so those are options that will be available to lower income households.
That's very important to know.
We all be running fiber to all the houses.
It'll be a mixed project. Once design is complete and confirmed, we'll have a better idea of what will be coax versus fiber. Jared, do you have an idea?
Yeah, primarily fiber.
So primarily fiber.
I know that's an issue right now.
And another product, since we are looking at the demographics of the community, now Latino, is something that will be offered for cable subscribers. It's all Spanish channels, Spanish language, those types of things will be available as well for the area.
Oh, good deal. And do you have to qualify for that, what'd you call it, essentials?
Internet Essentials Partner
So
Program.
is that, do they have to actually qualify for that low reduced bill, or can we just say, hey, I'm broke?
I don't think it's that easy.
Amelia was like, John, you are not going to qualify. Don't even try.
Perfect. So Jason has a handout that y'all can keep that does talk about the Internet Essentials Partner Program.
Yes, sir. Click on there and talk about
And Danielle is saying that it's on the website that I mentioned earlier.
Danielle, what?
So if you go to texas.comcast/expansion, try to come prepared for you, Mr. Williams.
This is actually what Scott asked about this, because I think for our community in
Yes.
certain areas, this is very, very important
Yes.
for a decent portion of our community to know that this is available for them for sure.
Definitely. And another opportunity, we met with the Greater Cleveland Chamber of Commerce and had our inclusion and community representative out just talking about opportunities to partner with areas like the library or a senior center, which we are available, do exist. And we've already done a fun event that will soon, you'll see broadcasted on our website with the senior center and their bingo that we did a couple of Fridays ago. But there's opportunities to do lift zones, which is designated free Wi-Fi that will come in, install, manage, and then we also provide support and programming based on whatever those needs may be. We've done veteran-based programming. We've done senior-focused programming where we're helping seniors work their phones, their tablets, their laptops, whatever they are having an issue with technology-wise. We'll bring in members of our team that were staff members to kind of help teach and facilitate. So we really do want to be a part of the community. We're not just a business and to come in, put down infrastructure and leave. We really want you to feel that Comcast is a family and want to be a part of yours.
That is awesome. Ashley, have you met Ashley? The work for the city, Ashley Russo? Oh, it's not Russo. And the other two. Awesome. Any other questions for Comcast? Internet Essentials. Everybody needs to look that up on Comcast.
Nothing else?
That's all I got. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'll just say that Comcast has been great so far to work with, just from a pre-development, pre-construction standpoint, and also just on the business development and community development side of things. They're very proactive, great partners. So we look forward to the partnership.
That's awesome. I'm glad y'all have come. It probably wouldn't hurt to come do this again at our next EDC meeting just to get the word out even more. And hopefully at our next city council meeting would be good. It'd be really good. Anything else for Comcast? Yes, sir. Absolutely. And did I mention Tarkington? I did mention Tarkington.
Got it.
Tarkington.
I did not hear that.
Oh, okay.
Got me
Google
Googling
that.
it now.
It's Tarkington, specifically on 2518.
Well, we know where Kennefic is.
Don't even have to go that far.
There you go. Well, we're already.
Don't even have to go that far.
Meeting?
Okay, director's report. Our awesome director.
I think we skipped an item, so.
No, we did. I'm sorry. Yeah, we did. An important item. I already crossed it out too. I apologize. That's an important item. That's my been trying to avoid that item. I don't know. Thank you all very much.
Thank y'all. Have a good
Greatly
night.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Reports and comments from board members. Number 4, who wants to start? You ought to volunteer. How about we volunteer? How about we volunteer Michelle this time? I'm going to break her in right. Michelle, what you got for us? And will you, if you don't mind, you can pull that cord up through that hole. There, oh, there you go. Thank you very much.
No, I don't really have very much to say yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Anything?
still learning.
Still learning. That's smart.
Always.
Smart.
I learn more by being quiet.
I'm just going to leave my bell open right now. Chuck,
And
what's
I'm
your...
very glad to be back.
Thank you. What you got, Chuck?
Well, I was going to say no comment, but maybe after that from Michelle, I just better say, hey, I shut my mouth off enough over the last few meetings, so I'll just say no comment. Thank you.
Mr. Buckley, what you got for us, Mike?
First, I'd like to say, I want to thank all our public servants for the hard work they do. City council, city employees, our firefighters, police department, water department, all the services we have. I want to thank y'all for everything. In light of everything that's gone on the past couple of months, I'm just looking forward to being able to start fresh and move forward and get on the road of improvements and getting things done. And I don't know if today's the day to do it or maybe the next meeting, but some of the comments that were made about certain things and about funding for here, I would like for our city manager to be able to prep for it a little bit and be able to give us the exact information on everything that was said so that not only us, but the public is informed on everything that has been mentioned in text messages and social media stuff, that they get the true meaning of everything that's been published. So that way it's not just partial things being said. I like all the facts, good or bad, to be put out. And I know today you didn't have time to be prepped for it, so I'd like to build maybe next meeting we have the information so that when you can explain to us and plus everybody can clarify everything for us. So other than that being said, I'm just looking forward to moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mike. What you got, Brent? You got anything for us?
Well, I'd like to, very well said, Mike. I think that echoes a lot of us up here. And so we'll just kind of wait for that. But I just want everybody to know that, the people up here and the people that work in this city, all our department heads, the city as a whole, as we kind of go through all these different opportunities, we're here to grow this city, to help this city. We want this city to succeed in all aspects, and it takes everybody working together to do it. So I just want to say thank you to those out there just in the grind every day that are out here working directly to make the city better. And that covers everybody from the police to the fire department, public works, everybody that works in this building and their subordinates. We thank you.
Ms. Souls?
Yeah, just kind of to reiterate what Mike and Brent said, it takes multiple components to create a successful city and an environment where our citizens can thrive. We all have to work together. So thank you to all the city staff, all of them, everyone. We really appreciate everything that y'all do. I genuinely mean that. I was feeling so thankful today that we have Emilio and Danielle, genuinely. So, everyone keep up the good work.
Danielle. Well, and I, the same. I can reiterate what everybody else is saying, but honestly, I think that, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion that I get approached from, they are very pleased with the way the EDC has been going for the last several months. We've gotten a lot done. We could go through all of the stuff we have gotten done, but we've gotten a lot done in the last several months. And Emilio and Danielle get to listen to the ideas that I get presented with and that I come up with, and the board comes up with all the time. So that's kind of the normal way things happen, is a board member comes up with an idea and it gets presented to myself, Emilio, or Danielle, and then we discuss it as a board. And then we figure out from that direction what we're going to do with whatever that idea is. And so far it seems like it's worked pretty good, obviously. At least I think so. I think the board would agree with that. But And again, we can't thank enough firefighters and police officers and all the city employees. Pam is not going to be with us this evening. She actually talked to me a little while ago. And even Pam, she's readily available. These city employees are available for us as board members and citizens at any time. If we have a question for one of our departments, let's get that answer. Let's ask them. That's all you got to do is call, walk into their office, and if you have a question, you can ask the question and they're going to answer it. Everybody knows, I'll say it like I see it, I guess. I'm not big into gotcha moments. I don't believe in them if you don't like them. And there's no reason for them, in my opinion, whatsoever. And especially when you have all our city employees readily available to us anytime. It's pretty easy to pick the phone up or just walk into their office and ask them. And I don't think anybody can dispute that whatsoever. Pam came and wanted to tell me about a couple of things before she left, just in case the board had a question on our investments. The reason she swapped our investments was because we were getting 3% return on our money, and she found one that's at 5%. So she went to 5%. And she brought this up to me already, which for me, I can read a piece of paper and see that, but she wanted to bring that up just in case anybody had a question about it. But that is the kind of employees we have with the city. They're very readily available for us and our citizens. But for this board specifically, they're very readily available, and all we have to do is approach them and ask the questions, and we'll get our answers, I'm quite certain. And if anybody has a problem with that, and they don't feel like they're getting the right answer, or they feel like something's not right, everybody has my number, Emilio's number, Scott's number. Let's probably go that route before we throw our laundry out there. So, okay, director's reports. Oh, by the way, we do have an EDC position open. If people want to put in an application for the EDC, I did forget that, I apologize. So we do have an EDC position open. If anybody wants to put in an application for the EDC, we will be looking at them as time goes on. Emilio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll go through these kind of quickly. But just want to provide updates on ongoing projects. With the skate park, happy to report that the concrete has been poured along with the installation of a pedestrian fence and laying of some bull rock, and we'll get some photos here in a second. We're going to be working with the skating coalition on a date to collaborate on the installation and layout of those ramps, but I hope to complete the project sometime mid-December in time for a ribbon cutting tentatively for our next EDC board meeting on the 23rd at 5 p.m. So that'll be prior to the regular meeting, obviously. So when that project is finalized, that will free up the contractor to proceed with playground installation at Polsky Park, as we've kind of discussed every month. So that will be next after the skate park completion. I'm happy to report that after this meeting, moving into the upcoming weeks, we'll begin our AV update on the council chamber with 40B and some of the other ancillary contractors that are involved with that. And so this room will be out of commission the 3rd through the 13th of September. That should be back online in time for a city council meeting. Like Danielle said, monthly chamber luncheon, if you please get those RSVPs into her as soon as possible. I forgot to put it on here, but on the fencing for the library, we have determined the lowest bidder on that based on ability bids that were received. So we should be proceeding with that. For the record, I think it's 30 Fence Company was the lowest bidder. Danielle, what was the total cost
$21,122.
21,122.
Yes.
That was the lowest bid.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the black 4-foot and 6-foot
Yep,
fence.
and that comes with a swing gate for the mower and a swing gate for pedestrians. And that's a black vinyl, well, I think the jeans is green. Is that what they want?
Mary wanted green vinyl instead of black.
So that is another question that Emilio and I did kind of speak about. If we're gonna be looking at doing fences at different locations, are we gonna be wanting to have it uniform, or are we gonna be having different colored fences at different locations?
So I would think we would want it all uniform, but what's the board think? Yes, 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 everybody agrees. And then also I saw just coincidentally, I saw a fence. I had to do a lot of flying yesterday, and I was in a municipality yesterday that they had a black vinyl chain link fence. They had the slats that run through it.
Yes, that's what
But
we're
the slats actually had print on the slants. On the slats had print that had the city's logo and name on the slats. It was really neat. Really, I know you're going, Sean,
We're
you're
gonna-
going more on me here.
So this is for the library you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about just in general. I'm not saying for the library specifically, you know. But it would look cool to have Cleveland Public Library on those slats. It would look kind of neat to have that on the slats, you know. Yeah, I bet you've already ordered the slats.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that would be
She
a
did.
change order.
We did not do change orders in construction, now do we, Mr. Buckley?
The only spot you'd be able to put it at would be in the front area facing.
And that would be covered by cars if they were parked.
And change orders are no in construction.
That's where it gets expensive.
And you are
That's
so
where they make
going
it,
to.
what I didn't get before.
Unforeseen circumstances only.
And we know when that will get started and everything?
As soon as
As
possible.
soon as possible.
All right, we're gonna get the dirt work done first. If y'all don't know, I met Roger and Julius over there the other day, and Emilio did. And there's a nice hole where the old building was in the grass area that holds a lot of water. And so, Roger has graciously agreed to get some dirt, get dumped over there and leveled out prior to the fence going up to make it easy. Where are we at on that, Roger?
Well, it's weather now, so it's kind of,
Okay.
We'll be sure to, as far as sequencing, we'll be sure to do that first, so we're not tearing down the fence.
yeah, no, we're not doing that.
That was
It's gonna be done before the fence gets up. It's all.
perfect.
What about, just a quick question, while we're on these little projects, what about the pavilion?
We're going to touch on that.
That's what
Okay. Yeah, that'll be at the end of this presentation, but I did want to highlight the images of the skate park, the work that's been done so thus far on the concrete and the fencing. You can see the new black fence that we want to maintain that look across the city. Next one. There's another view of it. Next one. Moving on to some of the kind of non-tangible.
Doesn't that look awesome though on the middle? Doesn't that look good? And I don't feel that out there. Amelia's just gonna take credit for it all. I'm really hard. I've actually been over there and I think it looks awesome. I'm excited about it. It's cool. Amelia was like, thank you very much.
No, thank you to Roger and his team, Tony and all those guys.
You did a great job, for sure.
Looking at some of our, kind of planning and initiatives that we have in progress, starting with the gateway, wayfinding signage master plan, and we convened the advisory committee for their first meeting on August 7th, and that was well attended and well participated in. We got some great feedback. We're going to meet internally with our consultant this week to review that, and then we get a date set for the next meeting. I would assume sometime in September, but I will notify Chuck and Heidi, they're serving on that committee, and they'll be in attendance for those meetings as well. I'll email a copy of the initial report to the board here later this evening. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Moving on, as you may be familiar with, City Council accepted the EDC's recommendation and awarded a contracted Destination by Design Planning LLC to serve as our consultants for place branding services to conduct our community rebranding. So we actually had a project consultation call, kind of administrative, kind of high level about how things will work and some early timelines on that today with Destination by Design team. So we're going to look at some dates and we'll schedule a kickoff call, but informally, it's not on the agenda, but if there's interest amongst board members who want to serve on that advisory committee, I assume Mr. Williams will, but if there's anyone else that wants to participate.
I would like to.
Okay. First come, first served.
So real quick, does everybody understand, and if you don't, if you're watching from television, from home or wherever, what rebranding is, please call the city and ask. I know it should be self-explanatory, but it might not be.
Same with wayfinding as well.
Just very much. Same with the wayfinding project. Those are two very important projects for any municipality, not just ours, but any municipality. Very important. So.
Yeah, and more so with the rebranding, portion of that, the deliverables is an implementation plan and rollout, plan on how to contextualize and activate the brand within the community. Because it's going to be realistically changed, and so that's part of the services is they advise us on how to do that and familiarize the brand with the community over time. So it's not an overnight thing anymore. Not to say that we have to, pledge these expenses immediately to, rewrap all the trucks and reprint all the business cards. There's definitely an implementation plan, a schedule, and also, the city's resources have to be accounted for when considering all of that. Moving ahead, Mr. President asked you to address the EDC and how they could potentially collaborate with the city on sidewalks, about community walkability, connectivity. Those are the kind of increasingly important factors in the community in terms of the health and vibrancy of your community. So obviously there's a huge need, as you see, people walking along Houston and other busy streets within the city. So I'm happy to report that there's numerous grants available for these types of improvements. Many of them are matching or percent matching. So that's a good way to leverage and utilize the EDC's funding or match with the city's funding to really kind of leverage those. Danielle and I are the two people, so the best way I think for us to really leverage that is to seek some assistance from grant writing firms that do this work. Typically, with those, they're paid through the funds that are awarded. So, whatever entity is matching us, obviously they'd be participating in the administrative cost to pay a grant writer. So. That's kind of an update. We'll obviously have more to bring back to you with grants that we are actively seeking and the progress of those.
And just to expand on that just a little bit, I've had a couple of board members, actually Mike Buckley and I talked about that yesterday, day before. Yeah, him and I slept since then. And Heidi has, several of us have talked about this on the sidewalks, and here we go. This is my example. We want to look at the project, talk about it, figure it out right here, and try to make it happen. That's what everybody is wanting to do, and the sidewalks is obviously conversation. So typically, I believe it's an 80-20 split on the grants.
It just depends on the exact program.
On the program, but either way, with the grant, we're going to be able to get a lot more done for our bang for our buck.
Well, are we going to be able to kind of lay out and map out, or have somebody map out the areas that need, because, I drive through town a lot. I know Houston Street, because you have a lot of kids that walk to school. Washington, you have a lot of people walking there, and then South Line and Truman. If you go there in the morning or afternoon, there's a million kids. I know there's certain other areas, but I know the main, to me, the focus area is gonna be where most of your kids are gonna be at. And those are the spots that I personally see. Other people may see, you know, some others, but I didn't know if we were gonna have something where we have a layout or a map of what we wanna.
Yeah, usually that's like a submittal that's required, or deliverable rather, that's required with the submittal for a grant. And so these firms will help us kind of with a needs assessment, and then with that would produce, you know, exhibits like sidewalk, a map exhibit, implementation, or like a ranking exhibit. Yeah, the factors that prioritize, you know, safety, pedestrian safety, and mobility. You know, addressing kind of like a congestion area, what facilities, public facilities, different linking, things like that. Those factors to yield some scores for those specific, you know, different projects within the community. Because yeah, that's gonna help our application score more. So typically the firms that do this a lot would help us produce those types of exhibits to support our application.
I would think obviously if the board's on the same page, which I've talked to everybody, but knowing the board, I'm thinking originally on the same page to take care of the kids first. I mean, yeah, common sense is good. You know, I think everybody be on page with that. So,
and yeah, that's even a specific type of grant, the Safe Routes to School. I think there's still some funding around, or maybe annually for that. So that's a specific type of sidewalk grant that prioritizes, you know, kids, you know, school kid, you know, routes.
and if that, I mean, I'd like to do it all, but if that would probably be the board's priority, then maybe we'll look at that. What'd you call it?
Safe Routes to School.
Safe routes to school. That maybe we'll look at that first and make that a priority.
Yeah, I would think so, because, I mean, anybody lives in Cleveland,
Yeah.
from 6 o'clock until almost 8 o'clock, there's thousands of kids walking on the street. And then from 2:30 until probably 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's the same thing. All those 4 streets that I named that I see all the time. So anything that we can do to help improve the safety of that, I think everybody would be on board. You know.
I live in Honeywood, so, I mean, it's scary with all of that that goes on.
So everybody's
So
on the
it's
same
a
page?
priority.
Do we need to make this a project? I think we would, wouldn't we?
I mean, it's kind of in the vein of park improvements, and things like that. So we need to have a public hearing on it at a minimum, I believe.
I think we're serious enough about this that we probably should make it a project.
It's a public
It's-
safety issue.
Absolutely. I think that, we're here.
Yeah, just to, you know, cover our bases, let's make it a project, let's move forward, and so we can start getting, you know, even getting some of these farms involved to go after some of these grants.
Well, I would think you could probably use your parks money at this point to get the grant started, get people on, and once you get the grant, create the park specific at that point, depending on what the grant and everything, and identify that area, that you could, and that way you have, you like those funds underneath the park and city. So we have allocated for that to get it started, get the consultant on board, because you may have to pay for some of the consulting work to get the application in. Get it
Well, that's,
done.
if we make it a project, and I don't think anybody has any problem with paying a consultant. I mean, I think everybody on board is on the same page, correct? Heidi, did you do something else?
I know it's hard to say, obviously, but is there, if we were gonna go through this process, would it be like 6 months before we saw sidewalks, a year before we saw sidewalks, or like 3-year project? Just so
I would say it's multi-year.
It's usually, especially if it's safe routes to schools and tech dots, it's usually a couple of years.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just want to make sure.
Now, most municipalities have, well, let me rephrase this, I don't want to say most, that's the wrong word. the municipalities I deal with, if you put in a business, you're required to put in a sidewalk. At least in Houston, Austin, Pasadena. Any business I put in, you have to put in a sidewalk to their specifications. Does the city of Cleveland require that? No, they don't require that.
Would that be a text amendment to our ordinances?
Wow, that's why we don't have sidewalks.
You gotta start somewhere.
Well,
Residential have sidewalks.
well, the thing is too, is like the way the city's wrong.
Correct.
Back, I can tell you when I was a kid, you could walk down these streets here and ride your bike through there, and it was not a big deal. You know, it's just over a period of time, the growth has come, and we haven't, it's just time to start getting up with times. I mean, there's a lot of safety stuff. You got, I can't tell you, I'm sure y'all know how many cars go back through here a day. You know, I see it because my office is on this main drag, it's just stop and go. You know, but the need, right there where I'm at, I have sidewalks, so it's not an issue because it was a downtown area. But once you got past that area, it's one way. You got nothing. So it's just, because everything was focused at the time, that's where all the business and everything was. Over the years, now it's starting to grow out, and there's definitely a need for it. And then two, there's way more kids walking to school than there was. You know, when I graduated, it was 125, 135 kids. You know, now they're graduating 600. You know, I mean, there's a big difference since, you know, 92 to 24. You know what I'm saying? So it's there's a big need for it. So I see it, and I see elderly people walking down the street, and they're in the middle of the street. You know, and their reflexes are not as quick, and they're hot. You know, you're walking out here in 100-degree weather. This accident's going to happen. If they faint or somebody faints or falls out, they're going to fall out in the middle of the road, you know, stuff like that. So I definitely see a big need for it, just not for students, but just for the community in general.
And I think this is an undertaking that is absolutely one of the places where we need to put some emphasis in. And I do think it's going to be a multi-year thing, and I think that being the case, that we need to put some real thought into, and I think, Mike, you touched on this at the very beginning. You know, our goal shouldn't be just to throw sidewalks out. They need to be part of it. Like, what is the plan here? You know, I mean, we're going to prioritize, we're going to strategize, and then make sure that that's part of an overarching, you know, plan of where we want to put these sidewalks. So that's mine. We have time, we have runway there to make that happen, but, you know, we don't want to put something down, we find out, TxDOT has a plan, and, you know, 6 months to rip it up. You know, just to be smart with and prioritize and rank where we want to get these done. You know, I do think this is big time safety.
Well, one of the things that we are currently in the process of is working on our Parks and Recreation strategic plan. And sidewalks and trails are a big part of that. And that's public survey will actually be going out here pretty soon, which will ask people about priorities of sidewalks and different things. Getting the strategic plan done will also help us qualify for off-street paths through Texas Parks and Wildlife, because they fund, again, another grant opportunity, trail grants, but it's usually not sidewalks, it's trails. So, you know, it could be your crushed granite trails, it could be all these different things, but they don't like sidewalks, they like off-street. So TxDOT does your sidewalks, there's several others that do the actual concrete sidewalks along your streets, but then you have off-street, like maybe through our, you know, ditches and gullies and stuff where you can actually do off-street trails that people can connect people, that also people can walk and so forth. So, you know, that's all part of that plan that we are currently in the process of doing right now.
Thanks, Scott. That's great information. Thank you.
Is there any way, I'm sure it's probably been explored, but any way to expedite this with TxDOT? Yeah, I was afraid of that answer, but yeah.
Well, we should be able to, I think the way to expedite it would be getting with the grant companies. I think would be the best way, wouldn't it? The easiest way is try to expedite it, is get with the grant companies and do the Safe Kids, see if we can get something going with that. The sooner the better, obviously.
There there are deadlines, opening and closing deadlines for these, so we'll see where we fall when we start here soon.
I have one question, because I know this is gonna be one of the big things that come up for the residents, I know this for a fact. Most people, especially because of the way everything has been in the past, and property lines, you know, everybody in the city of Cleveland, and I'm probably guilty of it too, to the ditch is my property. That's really not, there's an easement there, so that's something that's gonna have to be, I know even businesses, when you go down, you drive down through here, you're gonna see businesses, they got their curb all the way to the street, you know, they have stuff set up, so that's some things that I know is gonna be brought up, so I'm just, be aware, I mean, I know y'all should be aware, but that's gonna be one thing I'm gonna bring up. And I hope the citizens and the businesses understand, you know, in the long run, what we're doing, we're trying to help protect the citizens, you know, that need it, so.
Very good point. I totally agree, because I've dealt with it this year, as Mike has, anytime you open a business, you find out how much property you really do not have. After you pay for it, because you don't even look at that survey, you just want to know the darn property. And then when you find out what you can build, when you can build, you're like, what the heck? Anything else on sidewalks, make a project, everybody good with that?
We'll make a motion on that,
No? Go on over and make a project.
We'll have it on the tree.
Everybody is good with that, honestly. Okay. All right, Brent, yes, I'll do.
Moving on, happy to report that we've had enjoyed some great collaboration with Intergy Economic Development over the last few weeks. A few weeks ago, they were here doing some filming for drone footage for an update to their video that they have for marketing purposes of Cleveland and BNSF. And you can currently view the current video on Vimeo with that link there, that URL. And then last week, Danielle and I attended a training hosted by Intergy to review their site selection center tool. So that's something that we have really underutilized in the past and hope to change that in the future, getting some of our buildings and sites on there. So that way we can have a greater showing and presence and response to our advisor and anyone who's looking at the area from a state or regional perspective. Want to thank Austin Bank for their annual donation as part of their Community Reinvestment Act efforts to help assist and foster small businesses in East Texas. So we kind of count on that as miscellaneous revenue, but they're very gracious to provide that $1,000 support every year.
And I'll add on to the Intergy. Emilio and myself met with Brian and Jose, Brian Garcia, and their EDC rep the other day, what day it was, but the four of us met, and Intergy is very much on board with anything that they can do to help us all the way around. And they make it very clear their collaboration with us is definitely essential. They very good partnership with the city, I believe, for sure.
Kind of some more housekeeping stuff now. We have the TDC annual conference coming up October 23rd to the 25th. For board members who are interested in attending, that's going to be in Dallas, Texas, I believe Allen, more specifically. But if you can notify us that you'd like to attend the earliest convenience, we can start booking hotels and registrations and all of that, looking at per diem and everything. We can do that pretty quickly. I won't be in attendance, but Danielle will be there. I'll be in Europe.
Oh, darn. Darn. 23rd and 24th is a Wednesday and Thursday. Just to let y'all know, October 23rd is Wednesday, 24th is Thursday.
And the 25th.
Yeah, Friday.
That doesn't go on Fridays. Yes, skip it on Friday.
I might just fly over and back.
For anyone who's interested in expanding their knowledge of sales tax and how that works and what we're able to do and not do, those workshops are coming up all across the state. So if you're interested in attending that, there's a Houston option later in the fall, November 22nd. So again, so we can start booking that. I think those fill up kind of quick. But yeah, those are some housekeeping things, so you can let us know as soon as possible if you want to participate in those continuing education opportunities. And now we kind of get to the much anticipated discussion on the old fire station, downtown park, and I want to kind of bring in Danielle on this to share some of our thoughts and visions
Come on up, Danielle.
how we can reimagine that space. I think this one is going to
We got Emilio and myself and somebody, Roger, I think, got stuck in Danielle's office the other day when Danielle decided at the last second to have some epiphanies on this. And so we were sitting there. And
So,
here we
I am
go.
very big on visuals. And so I kind of created like my own little rendering. Forgive me, I am not an architect. I do not do this for a living, but I kind of created it myself. So I put this together, and when I put it together with the fence, I just was not a fan of it. And I'm looking at a pavilion that we invested into. We have.
I think that's exactly what Danielle said.
You know, we have a pavilion, we have beautiful green area, we have a mural just to hide it behind a fence. And I'm like, is all that hard work we did for that? Like, honestly. Like, and that's just to have an honest conversation. So I just wasn't a fan. I'm going to be honest. So I was really fighting on, okay, do I bring this up? Do I bring it up? I'm going to bring it up to y'all. So, and that's what I get paid for, right? So we had a discussion, and Emilio had a great idea. He was like, wait a minute, this was the old fire station. you know, it was Emilio's idea. So our EDC director, Emilio, he came up with a great idea, and he was like, why don't we, because the whole point of the fence was to basically create a barrier for, the kids, if they're going out there to go play, whatever the case may be, to keep them off of the main street area. So because of this being the old fire station pavilion, why don't we utilize old fire hydrants as bollards? And then in between, I kind of created, those are in between the bollards are basically the fire hoses that we can connect them, or we could do chains in between them. So that can create some kind of barrier in between them. We have a small business welder that's here in town that can basically weld these together. He can actually weld the fire hydrants to be taller also, so they can give them some height. I think this would be a better option to do than to hide this area behind a fence. That is my
I agree. I
proposition.
thought it was going to be a small, like a short.
Well, okay, hang
I
on.
like this here, if you raise it up and maybe add two of the chain, just so that way there's a little bit more of a barrier, so if a little kid doesn't run or something there.
Right.
So just to clarify something real quick here,
So
If you
John's
don't-
going to try to sell you on still adding a fence in another area of this, which is, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, the thing too, this is one of my things, and that's what I noticed when we were over there. A lot of trash was getting blown
Right.
from the parking lot into the park, so
We could put a fence there.
we need something on that side there to.
And so that's where we could put an additional fence, and Brent actually came up with a great idea, because John came up with still adding a fence, but Brent came up with the other idea, which is where we can add, where we still advertise whatever may be going on for that month that's happening. So how John mentioned earlier with the slats, or of having something in there, but I'm going to have to research on how we can have it to where it's more interchangeable of what's going on. I don't think that's possible. I don't think we would be able to do that, only because we have the mural. I think it's going to clash with what's going on with the mural kind of type, even if we were to do the logo whatever the case may be. This is actually something, even if we weren't looking at the fire hydrants, the welder that I was speaking of, this is actually something he did in the Woodlands Pavilion. This actually sits up to be like 8 feet high, that's as tall as the violin, and it's 12 foot long. And he welded that all together in the pavilion in the Woodlands, and that's actually a bike rack. So the music notes are bike racks. So that's another option. And I think that cost with material, labor, and everything, I think that ran maybe $6,500, $7,000. I think he did that for. So there's different options that we could look at to play with. It's just really open. I guess my vision of the fence, I wasn't sold on it.
So my idea was definitely the fire hydrants on that street side, probably on both sides of where the streets are, but that corner.
Hanson.
Yeah, and San Jacinto both, the fire hydrant situation. And then the backside next to Walmart.
Right here.
Was black vinyl fence. And the other day when she did this in her office, the previous picture, she did not want to change that to a 4-foot black vinyl fence to give us a true visual.
Actually, that is a black fence. It's because of our AV system that's going to be changed on September 3rd through the 13th. It's going to be better once I show this to you, but it is black.
So she wanted to throw that up there like it's a temporary fence leaning over. It's ugly. It's looking like a prison fence. I'm surprised it didn't have razor wire.
I was about to say, she took the razor wire out.
She took the razor wire off. But,
I had to sell it.
I think Emilio or somebody had said something about a fire hydrant. I was like, well, wait a minute, let's use a fire hydrant as bollards.
That's not how the conversation
That's exactly.
really sold it.
Well, if you raise them up a little bit, then you can also
Do 2 chains or
have them
two.
do the bike racks in each one of the,
Yeah.
each one of the hydrants. And so you get the 2-in-1, if somebody wants to ride up. 'Cause you don't want to go too high because that's going to interfere with everything. But
Right.
I know where you can get two slats and then you got a spot where you can
Put it in your bike,
up,
yeah.
park a bike and lock it up. And
So the question is, if we do this down San Jacinto and Hanson, and then do the, would you want 6 foot or 4 foot on Walgreens side? Emilio's saying 6, you're saying 4.
4?
Is that gonna be enough to block the trash and stuff coming out across there?
I'm curious, why did you say 6 Emilio?
Just because I think there's like it's kind of like a separation of grade. So maybe a 4 would, trash can like catch some wind and come over.
And I think there is a 2 foot separation. Well, you can see the separation of grade.
Yeah, if that's
See
a
it
couple
there on the very
of feet,
far right-hand side, I think it's like 2 foot there.
yeah, if that's a couple of feet, then that means from the Walgreens side, you're only gonna be
2 foot.
a
2
2-foot
feet
fence.
above that.
So,
Because it's
that
so big.
you may have a lot of stuff blowing over at that rate.
So do a 6 foot chain link fence on the backside, and then what's y'all's thoughts? Go with this, maybe like Mike said, let's raise those bollards up and do 2 chains across there, or
I like that, because I think we all agree, we want it to look appealing, we want it to look decorative, we want it to be a place where people are wanting to go.
you're playing homage to the old fire department.
Exactly
Right.
right. Yeah, you're thinking.
And that's what, Amelia did.
And that allows us to kind of build a theme around this pocket park. We talk about playground structures. They have playground structures that are like fire trucks, kind of cool.
So that it's not gonna block the mural that's got to sit over the side.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be good for little kids. I don't really see big kids going over hanging out over there. It'd be more for toddlers and stuff.
birthday party stuff.
But you also have,
It is
and keep
debated.
in mind, you also have whenever, because I'm going to speak it into existence, right? Whenever the time comes that the Texan is going to open in the future, because I believe it will, this is going to be a place where probably even adults will be. So do we want to turn it into a park? Or do we want to turn it into where adults can still go and if they want to read a book and hang out? Like, because I know we do have parks. We have the skate park for the kids. We do, those. So do we want to go into the direction of a place where it's mainly where families can hang out? Like, I don't know.
Well, it can be both, yeah.
It could be both, but I can tell you, I pass it every day, I see
Yeah.
it every day, and I've yet to see an adult.
There.
sit there.
Okay.
So-
Is there an amenity that we're not thinking of?
Well, there's, you know,
I've heard dog park.
programming for passive parks that we can look at to see what elements we can incorporate. So I think, yeah, there's a range of options.
I'm back to my chain fence, and I don't want that. My chain fence.
So I think this discussion gives us a lot of good inputs for us to go back and evaluate options and present them in a more formal setting. But I think we're good to move forward on hydrant bollards.
Okay.
For sure.
I do have a question. I noticed when I drove by the other day that it's being torn up along the edges. Is that drainage or? Lights?
So
Okay.
we have to put some, wire,
Conduit.
conduit, so forth on the ground until we get the lights set up and up and over the pole.
Awesome, okay, thank you.
For the decorative acorn lights. And that concludes, unless there's no more discussion, that concludes our direction.
I do have a question to ask. And I just need everyone to be open-minded, and it could be temporary, and I kind of brought it up with Emilio on Friday, but I just feel like it's kind of a pressing matter at the moment. And we're always talking about beautification throughout the EDC, so I don't know if there's a way that we could assist. And like I said, even if it's just temporary, but, and tell me if I'm swinging in the wrong ballpark, but if there's any way that the EDC could help with the mowing and trash pickup at the moment throughout our city. A lot of silence. I hear a pen tap. Just because I know it's a
Well, now that tap you're hearing is from the guy that's having to do it all.
I know. Roger, I'm trying to help you out.
I know.
Well, and Scott and I just had this conversation an hour ago in regards to a problem we have currently at the airport. And we do, I know it's a bad year because of all the weather that we've been getting and grass is going like crazy, but we do have a lot of grass that needs to be cut and a lot of trash that does seem like it's accumulating a lot. Michelle?
Have y'all seen the trash over by Ollie's and that empty lot? Is there a way we can either block that road, or how do we clean that up? Because it's got the couches,
You
the
talk about,
mattress.
you talk about the road coming from February. I think that's right
It
behind
was
the.
side street.
Yeah, that's.
So I could touch base on that one. So on the development services side with code enforcement, that one is already tagged. So the owner of that property has already been notified and we've been in contact with her. So she has, we gave her 2 weeks. I think I was notified about that the end of last week. So she has 2 weeks to get all that cleaned up. If she does not, so how it works is through code enforcement, once you receive your violation notice, we basically give you a timeline. If you do not follow through with that timeline within that time period, then what we do is we end up going out there, getting it taken care of through a contractor. We bill you for it, you pay for it, or we turn around, pay the contractor, and then there's a lien on your property. So then you're basically tied and you can do nothing with that property. So that property specifically has 2 weeks to be able to get everything taken care of with that property. If it does not get done in 2 weeks, then we'll go ahead and take care of it, and then a lien is being put on that property if it's not taken care of. So that one has been addressed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Back to the original 2 questions, the helping with the trash pickup, and is there anything EDC can do to help facilitate this, make it happen a little better, a little quicker, a little more trash get picked up, a little more grass get cut?
To provide some color, I guess, and background, this has been issued, made light of by the changing of the hands of the correctional facility. Those under that previous operator, they have been more flexible on allowing inmates to assist with that type of work. Under the Department of Corrections now, that they have more stricter requirements for what areas those inmates can be in, has to be enclosed for security purposes. So that's why less collaboration has been seen with the prison. I think we do have funds in this upcoming budget set aside for real property maintenance, but that's maintenance on property that's owned by the EDC. So we can, we've already engaged companies to assist with mowing and things like that on those properties. So I don't know, that's one way to address it, but that's obviously a small footprint of the city.
Yeah, and EDC, a lot of EDC's property is not in the city either. In this, well,
Not for long.
yeah. So, true, maybe not for long. We'll discuss that later on, but, and hopefully not. But back to that same question, is there a way that EDC's funds, and if anybody, if we even want to do it, I guess, but more importantly, is there a way to do it to help facilitate some trash pickup and grass getting mowed and the cleanliness of the city? Reach out to what? For the
We've
TDC.
been going back and forth with them still, so.
So now, I mean, it's in the ether, this soul, so we'll, that'll give us some time to evaluate options and then come back to you.
Okay, thank you. And Roger, I just want to reiterate that was no dig at Public Works. It was genuinely like trying to, yeah, nothing.
And then, Ashley Carter, has been working on adding some more events to kind of like piggyback on the cleanup. So I think she's trying to organize a fall event.
Twice a year.
So,
Thank you, William.
yes, ma'am.
There's one more thing we're going to ask about. Anything else on the director's report? Any more questions, comments, concerns, votes, complaints? Nothing? Number 6, meeting minutes for July 22nd, 2024, August 12th, 2024 for the special call meeting, and then our monthly financial statement for June 2024 and the quarterly investment report for the third quarter. Has everybody had a chance to look at them and go over them? Any concerns, anything on them? If not, do I have a motion?
Got a motion, we accept the consent agenda, item 6 and 7.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Brent McGuire to accept the consent agenda number 6 and number 7. I have a second by Michelle Wyatt. Any more questions, anything in regards to it? Nope. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Number 8, discussion concerning the overhaul of the facade improvement program into the business improvement program. Emilio?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. I kind of wanted to, and this is an informal discussion, we don't have to take any action on here. It's not provided that we take action. So I wanted to kind of go through the eligibility requirements of the current program, some early recommendations that we have, go through the program guidelines, and highlight some language I'm going to keep, discard, maybe modify, and then go from there. But starting with program eligibility, currently you have to be a new business planning to locate within the city of Cleveland or an existing business in the city limits. All buildings, facilities located within the city, and then kind of limits you to a frequency of not having received a grant in the last 12-month period. On the location in the city limits, that's obviously yes. We want to modify that to further go as far as redefining a program area where this type of incentive would be eligible. Obviously, we call it a big program area, but obviously that's, and I didn't have time to produce a map, but in the map that would outline and prioritize major commercial corridors, so Easton Street and Washington Avenue, South Line, where there is a lot of need for revitalization and redevelopment, certainly our central business district and the areas in the periphery of that. we can talk a little bit, take some time to talk about those areas, and if there's other areas that are maybe we want to take under advisement. But casting a wide net of saying the entire city, and, properties within the city limits, it's not going to, you're not going to leverage the efficacy of the program, to its fullest extent, whereas we kind of narrow and define the area, we can start to see more quicker incremental change. And, we can always amend the boundaries if we're finding that there's demand for this type of incentive in other areas. But that's our initial recommendation, is to define that program area, and we can bring back a map, because we'll obviously have to take action on this at a later date. If you don't want to kind of just discuss, in general what areas you think will be applicable, but those are the areas that we're thinking of.
Any questions on the areas?
Yeah, I think next discussion, having a map to where we can kind of show out where this vision is,
Yes.
would help greatly.
Understood. So, beyond spatial eligibility, locational criteria, we would recommend implementing some requirements that this be a new or existing non-residential building, commercially zoned, so that way we're not incentivizing people to break our zoning ordinance. And then it must be tax generated. That's not really something that's covered in the current criteria. I think that's the intent, but something that's property tax generating or sales tax generating, I think would be a requirement that we want to encourage. So this would exclude nonprofits, obviously, from participating. Nonprofits of any nature, religious nonprofits, things like that. So there may be assistance available, the other avenues, but when our sales tax entity, we probably may be serving those that generate sales tax. That's the logic with that requirement. And then we don't want to award people that owe the city money, so criteria would be that you're not indebted to the city, so no delinquent taxes or fees, due, not owe or be subject to any liens that the city's placed on the property, or be in violation of any city codes or ordinances, so no active code enforcement cases. Before I move on, any questions on those items? All right, so looking at some of the current program guidelines, a lot of this stuff we recommend keeping or modifying. It's pretty common sense, but I'll just go line by line and try to do it quickly. But proof of property ownership, or the owner granting consent to seek the grant. Obviously, we're recommending keeping that. If leased, property owner must apply jointly and provide a copy of the lease. I would modify that to say that they just need to provide authorization. So we want them to know and be aware that their tenant is seeking a grant, but I think having them jointly apply probably a bit of overkill. Projects must be in compliance with the 2004 CBD plan recommendations. I think we moved to discard that, and we probably provide some language about the program goals and objectives. Obviously, revitalization of the downtown area and periphery would be part of those goals and objectives.
Quick question, on the one where if they are the EC, do we want to add any language in there that they have to remain with that lease for a year or so? Because you don't want them to have to apply for the grant and skip out in a month.
Yeah, that's covered further on down the list.
Okay.
We'll get to that time period.
Okay.
So improvements must be designed in a manner to be highly visible and add aesthetic appeal to the property appearance. Again, I would move to discard this language only to incorporate it into the goals and objectives of the program. And to make that a requirement that's kind of subjective. So, we want to remove appearance of subjectivity. All grants are reimbursement based, funded only after completion in accordance with the application project approved by the EDC, and after proof of paid receipts submitted for all applicable expenses, further amounts of completed work are required. So we're going to keep this language and probably modify it to further break those down into separate requirements in case, separability, you have to say that, that aspect of that is not constitutional or lawful, at least the other parts are limited to that. Grants are cash matches or funds paid by the applicant and not to exceed the limits set forth by this program. We're going to keep that. Moving on. Obligated to perform in accordance with the approved application. Modifications require review and written approval from the EDC board, otherwise improvements would be ineligible for grant funding. So the first part of that, I would absolutely recommend keeping. The sub-point of that, I would modify to say that modifications can probably be reviewed at administrative level, and if the EDC director or designee is not feel comfortable with said modification, then they can forward to the board for further consideration.
Just to be more specific on that one, so tell us real quick what that modification, what are you actually suggesting?
I'm just, if it's an immaterial change, like swapping out this tile for that tile, under the current guidelines, I'd have to bring that back to you for something that kind of is like for like. Whereas I would say to give me the discretion to say, this doesn't pass the smell test. This is kind of a modification of the intent of the application, and therefore you need to go before the board. Just for the ease of kind of program administration and kind of eliminating some bureaucracy, again, I would maintain some language that the board would have approval on recommendation of the director. Or we can say, we can put a percentage on it, 10%, 20% change. I don't know how you modify that, but something like materials, something like that, unless it's tied to that cost. 20%.
Well, what I'm thinking about is down the road is what I'm thinking about. If you yourself personally is not here, and
Also, you gotta remember, this is a grant for them to improve their business.
Right.
So if you want, they're one doing it. So if they want to do railroad timbers and they can't find them, and so they end up using, 4x4s, treated 4x4s for something. I mean, I'm just giving an example.
Well, maybe
That's something okay, that's fine. The intent is still there. You're still trying to improve it. Now, if you want to completely redo, well, I'm going to do this landscaping, but no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this instead. That's something that's going to go back for the board. If they're just changing materials or something, they can't already get something, or they want to change the color, that's not something that.
I think though, as an EDC board, that we have to look into the future, that if you yourself, Scott Swagger, Amelia are not here, and someone else is in y'all's positions, and anything favoritism or anything else was to happen, not that would ever happen in this city, but maybe modify it to where it's more just suggestions, to require, instead of requiring the review and written approval of the EDC board, instead of written approval of the EDC board, maybe a consulting with the EDC board or EDC president or treasurer or vice president, somebody or something, maybe just a phone consult instead of having to bring it back to the EDC board and wait another month. I see both sides of it. I really do. I mean,
Well, I guess,
Anybody?
I would offer that, this provision is contemplating approved applications, so the application's already been approved, the initial
Correct.
one. So I think then it becomes an accountability piece, if I do something that is egregious in terms of granting a modification or deviation from the application, then you're probably going to let me know about it.
But then it's too late because it's already been done. But, Brett?
I mean, I definitely see both sides, and again, this is after they've already submitted everything. This is after everybody's approved the direction. So you would hope that any modifications past that would be very minimal, but we don't know. So again, having that just kind of in the hands of one person, no offense, but we don't know who's gonna be here, I mean, it'd be you, don't worry. But,
I think as the EDC board, we're not worried about one person.
No, that's not.
Future people that.
I mean, I'm thinking from that person, if a modification has to be made, we do, and don't forget, it's not going to be funded until it's complete, and they pay for it, and they're bringing it back to us for reimbursement. So, I mean, really and truthfully, having the modifications come back around.
Well, but if they go to whoever that one person is, they approve it, and then it comes to us for the final, and we go, what happened? No, we don't like that.
Well,
And it's already done and too late.
that's ship sailed.
I mean, if it's just a facade, I guess, or just I don't know, the surface or whatever, change kind of thing, that's immaterial.
Correct.
If it's depending on the project, again, you are creating a business improvement, so it's not just facade anymore, it could be something, but if it's more structural or whatever, they're still gonna have to go through the permitting, the inspections, and that's really what you're gonna be concerned about, is it safe for, are we making sure everything's on? If it's a business that wants to come in and they change the colors or they change the materials when they're doing something, I mean, it's their business, if they're wanting to do the improvement.
Currently, this is how it's written currently, is that correct?
That's correct.
With modifications require review and written approval from the EDC board, otherwise improvements would be ineligible for grant funding. Any other, Mike, what do you think? What's your thoughts, Mike? I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, it's, well, I see it from all lines, because even across the board, you could have somebody that may not want to show favoritism or not show favoritism, may not like that person or disagree, and try to push their direction to fail it. You can have that happen too. My only thing is once they submit it, and it's in construction all the time, when you submit a set of drawings and a plan of what you want to do, there's things that do come up. I mean, they may get up there and what they had planned, you would say structural-wise, the structural load may not hold it. If they can find a similar material that is lighter weight and matches what they're doing, I don't see an issue with it. Now, if it's going to be a major change than what they were going to do, or something that was agreed upon, then yes, I agree, it needs to come back to the board. But for small stuff, if it's a paint color, and they get up there, they look at it, and they start seeing it on a bigger picture, like, I really don't like this. I want to go with this tone instead. It looks better. It's more attractive. They shouldn't have to come in front of the board to do it. So minor things, I really don't have an issue with. It's just that when it comes to the overall scheme, as long as it's not changing the whole design, the whole layout, everything that they brought to us, so this is what we're going to do, this is what we agreed upon. That's why we have an issue.
That would be language that we have to put in there, or do we just kind of, something that John kind of mentioned, do we just maybe create somebody with Emilio or with Scott, just a two-person committee that's on this committee, that if any of those modifications from the board, that if this thing comes up, they get called upon, have a quick, it can be over Teams, or it can be a 5-minute thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You had, if it was that important, or if somebody's worried about it, you just have a special call meeting, but it's going to be hard to get people here in a short period of
So
time.
how about
So
just include
I
president,
would-
vice president?
I would have an issue if you just say, hey, look, I want, it's just two members.
Yeah.
To say, hey, look, I volunteer, if there's an issue that comes up, here we go, you know.
Yeah, just a two-person that would be on this little advisory.
At the end of the day, we're
Not gonna happen, really.
Well, yeah, and really what we're kind of looking, in the way I see it going right now and kind of the way it's being taught, is kind of like we got a zone in a set area, you know, kind of like HOA. You can't paint your house this color, you can't add this, you can't add that. Then that's not really what this program is about.
No.
We're trying to clean it up, make the place look presentable, make everything look nice, and then draw attention to a business. So I don't have an issue with small items, but as a safety feature, wouldn't mind having, two members volunteer and say, hey, I don't mind being a part of this, or if y'all want to make it the president, vice president, it doesn't make a difference there, but then you have somebody communication that's easy to get done with, but that's where I stand on that. I mean, to me, it's not a big deal, because at the end of the day, if it's not gonna work, it's gonna get shut down because of the structural permitting, all that kind of stuff, inspections, so.
Well, if we did any major modifications, but then that's up to interpretation also, major modifications. Emilio, Emilio,
Major modification.
that's up for interpretation
You have to
too.
pull those numbers regardless, right?
Well, but that still doesn't come back to here.
Yeah, well, I mean, getting a permit is a requirement.
Yeah, a permit's gotta get, you gotta get a permit no matter what.
I do have one question real quick though, I mean, it's probably settled pretty easy. And of all the grants and stuff that we've done, have we ever had one come back and say, I'm gonna make this modification, do we need to get approval for it?
No, but I think they're kind of looking in the future because we're significantly upping the grant amounts that they're potentially, we want more people taking involved in this, so.
Now, is that gonna be based on the facade, or is it gonna be based on building remodel?
Yeah, so we want to encourage improvements that extend the useful life of the building. So I would say, code requirements, because those, if you're doing, ADA requirement, ramps, accessibility, bathrooms, fire extinguishers, those kinds of things, those add up when you're looking at a project. So I think we want to encourage those types of improvements as well as the aesthetic ones. So
And that's why I brought it up, because I remember we talked about that in a previous meeting, so I just wanted to make sure that our facade, what we're saying facade, is actually more than just facade. It could be building improvements too. So at that point, you're gonna have to have inspections, and you're gonna have to have a set of drawings and guidelines for things to be done a certain way.
And that will cut out having to have either anybody from the board and anything, because even with parking lots, depending on if it's a clinic, if it's a restaurant, you have certain guidelines that you have to have in order to do a parking lot. Your spaces, how many handicaps, so all of those, you still have to pull permits, you still have to have plans. So all of those still have to go through inspections and everything. So you still have your development services side that has to check off those boxes for you to say, okay, you're good to go. Even whenever you do facade, they come and they want to do a sign, you still have to do a sign permit. If they're going to do electrical, you have to pull your electrical permit. You have to have plans for that. So you still have the back end of checking off all those boxes, so it doesn't fall just on EDC. You can do the back end of saying, okay, development services, did they go through A, B, C, and D? Yes, they did. Okay, they're good to go. All right, you got your facade grant, you're good, you did everything you were supposed to do, here's your reimbursement.
So maybe a better way.
Well, I was saying, one thing just to add to this, and it's based on construction, period. If you can't, and I deal with it a lot, if you can't get a decision quick, it shuts everything down, and it costs a curve. So it's now a job that may have cost $5,000 or $10,000 or $50,000, it just went up.
And you gotta remember, I mean, you're doing this is not, you're not on the development side, you're on the EDC. You're doing this as funding. You're trying to help promote development, you're trying to help businesses and that.
So what was
You're providing the money.
What was the original reasoning, I wonder, for this wordage on modifications required review?
And we're not saying that what was in place was always the greatest. That's why I think y'all are working on this. And so what's the real intent? Y'all are providing the funding, you know, and.
Then I think
so-
maybe we look at it that way, because again, as we define what that funding is gonna look like, is it gonna be is this gonna be job to job? Is it gonna be an X number amount up to 50%? You know, we haven't defined that yet.
Correct.
So maybe instead of us talking about modifications, thinking about it from an aesthetic or from something like that, that we look at that, okay, does the modification change the funding request?
Right, and that's what I would offer too, is I would again only approve something that was immaterial. Material to me is, hey, this is gonna be more expensive,
Right.
and this is gonna increase the match that, you know, earlier.
Yeah, and I think that may be the way we need to look at this and not from an aesthetic. Because yeah, you're right, you're gonna have to get your permits pulled. We're not trying to slow, I mean, everything that we've been about since I think this group's got here is how do we
Speed it
How
up.
do we speed this up?
We're gonna speed up the process.
You don't want somebody having to
Slow
wait 2 weeks to be able to have a meeting to be able to.
No,
Exactly,
okay.
no. And I would bet you that maybe this was in here from past because, again, they were only thinking about it from a facade or signage, and that's where a lot of subjectivity gets into it that we're trying to remove. You know, because I'm not a designer, sorry, and not a designer, so not in that business. And ultimately, they're the ones, these businesses are the ones spending the money. They come to us for help on the reimbursement side. But
I
yeah,
can almost guarantee you, because I did this before, like I've done this in my past career, I can almost guarantee you, anytime we've done construction and major construction, we've gotten all of our ducks in a row of our material, what is our most cost effective. Okay, if it's not our cost effective, do we have this in stock? If it's not in stock and we need it for this much square feet, we don't have that in stock, and it's gonna be on back order because we decided to order it from France. Okay, we're not gonna have it. How long does it take to get here from Mexico? Okay, it's gonna take this long, that's the one we want. So before they set foot in front of you, we already got our material ready to go. So I guarantee you.
Well, this is just
businesses-
addressing modifications after you have all that.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, I guarantee you, by the time they come here, they're not gonna, you're very rarely probably gonna run into any kind of modifications when it comes to that.
well, and too, if we approve X dollars, ultimately, you know, I mean, again, this is gonna be a repayment of a percentage. It's like you said, they're gonna go in expecting that dollar amount. So I can't see where this is going to come up with that much.
No, I don't think.
I really don't.
So do we want to do away with that totally, or still want a modification to be checked in? Question.
Well, under the current language, I would have to bring anything back that would increase the level of funding.
And we don't want to have to do that. I think everyone on this board wants to streamline this process and get it. We don't want to have to come back to this board and then something happens and it goes to the next board and 2 or 3 months down the road, just like Mike and Brent and I all said. But I think anybody sees that with this current board, we are all about streamlining it. So I agree with, I think the whole board's going to agree that this language, we need to redo this language. Doesn't necessarily have to come back to the whole board. Do we want it to come back to 2 of the members on the board, or just let the EDC director make the judgment call by themselves?
But if it's a minor thing, I don't have an issue with the
I agree.
director making the decision.
Okay, what if it's a
What do
major?
you stand, Chuck, I see you shaking your head.
What if it's a
Well,
major? What if
no,
it's a
I mean,
major?
I mean, just so you have some thoughts rolling.
Well, you know, we're talking about streamlining this process, and this is getting nitpicky, but why do they have to have written approval?
Well, so
I
written
mean, is that,
approval, just for documentation purposes, but
But that's what we're talking about changing.
the initial written approval is the funding resolution that says the board authorizes this grant.
yeah, no, I think we streamline it
Okay, so really,
as least interference from us as possible.
so the question is going to be, again, and I agree with Mike, minor versus major, those are relative terms. So realistically, do we want to just let the EDC director have the approval himself, or him just consult with, not have to have an EDC board meeting, consult with the two members on the board? Which one do we want to do? Let's make it work. Brett, what do you think?
Well, I get, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I just want to offer, I think, kind of like you were talking about, moving forward and figuring out kind of our framework, operational framework. I see the board as more, in this case, in this instance, as the policy maker and setter, and whereas this kind of creeps into the operations, where I think that's obviously staff. So, if that's the desire and the direction of the board, then I would say keep it as administrative as possible.
One thing is, it's probably make it pretty easy. At the end of the day, if it doesn't go the way we see it needs to go, we always make changes. That's why we have these meetings. If it's not working out, you can always say, okay, you know what, I want to bring this up for a motion. We need to bring this up as an agenda item. I want to, we can straighten it out. So,
I mean, I think obviously, Emilio, anybody, if you got a request that is going to add 20% to the funding ask, you're going to ask a question. And that's what we would all expect. So,
it raises any part, I would think, anything significant. At 10%, you're jumping a pretty good, depending on the size of the job, the project. So,
It's a $100,000 job, $10,000.
yeah. So.
I think this is one of those things where we're paying Emilio, to make these decisions with our trust in him.
It's discretion.
So I think that, it's his discretion.
And I guess to clarify something on the financial piece of this, Danielle and I talked about this, is we would only recommend you authorizing a determined amount based on, we're going to evaluate the project cost, and what's 50% of that, okay, that's the match. And if it exceeds, we will authorize, obviously, whatever that amount is for that improvement type. If it's less than the max, then we look at the 50% and we say you're only authorizing, $2,500 if that's all it's going to take. Then anything over that, I would want to bring back to the board, and I think, under the language, I would definitely have to. So that wouldn't change. What my intent was to say, things that are immaterial or that wouldn't, affect the nature or intent of the approved application.
So how about we do that? How about we just put in modifications that change the dollar amount?
Okay.
Would that work? Because that would be the same thing like Mike was talking about. The modifications that change the dollar amount that EDC is projected to pay would need to come back to either the EDC board or to the EDC members. That would probably need to come back to the EDC board.
That would be the only reason why I would think that he would have to come back to us.
Yeah.
Have to be.
So how about we change it?
Then just put a percentage with it, up to
Well, let's not do a
20% increase.
No, let's do just, because we're going to
But
approve.
and I look at it like this too, this was one of the things that we had an issue before, it was brought up about wanting to answer for every penny that was spent. He's allowed, our EDC director is allowed to spend up to $5,000 without coming to the board, and then anything above that, and then just needs to get I think it's $25,000, gets a sign, just a PO, and then after that it comes to the board. So if we can trust him at that point, I think we should be able to trust him with a small percentage of
That's the way it
what
should be.
so.
All right, moving on. Applicant is responsible for obtaining all necessary permits. Failure to do so shall render application ineligible for grant funding. We discussed that. So we
already went over that.
Improvements in an approved application shall be completed in their entirety. Failure to complete shall render application ineligible for grant funding. Keeping that. During construction, EDC representatives have the right to entry and inspection. Keeping that. No improvement shall begin prior to grant approval by EDC. Keeping that. Must complete project within 12 months of written approval. Failure to comply may result in loss of funding. I say modify that because, I've written programs that maybe it's not, just because of the nature of material cost and the ebb and flow of, supply chains, unless it's 12 months after written approval or 12 months after the issuance of a permit. At least that gives you kind of two
I would say after you permit the job, because the problem is with, they may have a project, any development project or anything, you always know it takes a few months to get everything set up. And then once you start the job, then you got a deadline that you want to meet. So I would recommend it be done after permitting.
After permits approved.
Yeah, I think we have to have.
After permit approval, maybe?
Yeah, I think we have to have some timeline in there, but yeah, starting it at.
Permit approval, or permit issuance of permit.
Yes.
And if they're doing something major
Yeah.
that they know is going to take longer than 12 months, then they can say, okay, look, this project's here, then we can make a modification to this.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll present that one with fact, Applicant must agree to remain in business or make provisions for occupancy for at least 12 months following project completion. I know we talked about, Danielle had raised this question, and it may be controversial, so we can either modify it, but I kind of moved to discard it because once you approve a project, right, that means they have the direction they need to obviously go make those improvements. They only need to receive a reimbursement on completed improvements in accordance with that application. In my view, once those improvements are made, they're entitled to that reimbursement, and whether they remain in business or not, it's a facility that's somewhat turnkey. They might need to make some aesthetic, adjustments, but I don't know that, it's to their consequence that they didn't remain in business. At least we have something that's a facility that has a useful life that's longer than it was previously.
And this is the one, Danielle, that you disagree with on this one, huh?
well, I'm going to ask this question before you answer anything. What's the repercussions if they don't stay open for 12 months?
That's what I was thinking. How do you get the money out?
You're not going to get through it.
There's nothing we can do about it.
There's a reason why they shut down,
Other than put it in their system. Yeah, because otherwise we put it in their paperwork that if you don't stay open for 12 months, you owe us some money back, but if they're closing, they can't afford cash.
Well, most people go in business, plan on being in business forever, or at least get it to a point where they can sell it to make what they want, and so it's an investment. So that one, I would say, I would ask to be removed because I don't see the.
I just go back and forth on it only because I'm looking at it from a business standpoint and a revenue standpoint. Meaning, okay, we make the improvements to it, right? Make it to improvements to a building. They go out of business. Building is there, looks nice. Nobody ever buys into it.
They're getting taxed on it.
Did we get any sales tax from it from sitting there? Nope.
But I mean,
Somebody $20,000.
And then what if the
But
next person 2 months comes back to us and goes, well, we don't like what y'all did, or what the previous people did, we want to do another facade now.
So,
And then I'm saying it's like a two-sided, you know what I'm saying? It's like a
That's the
problem.
outside.
Is there a minimum time they have to be in business before they can ask for the grant? No?
because part of the eligibility criteria includes new business.
Okay. But it's a risk that you're taking. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it's business, Nobody goes in business expecting to fail, but I mean, you can't.
And I don't think any business owner that is signing up for this is thinking in 12 months he's not going to be doing it.
Right.
So, I mean, how would you even know? Because again, we're not reimbursing this until he pays for it, he or she's paid for it. So, I mean, I don't even know how you enforce that.
That's just like any type of grant. If you get a grant, you use the money for what you got the grant for, and you don't stay.
Good question.
That program's over with, then it is what it is. Nobody gets the money back. I mean, as far as I know, most grants, if you use the money for that purpose there, it's all good. After that point, if you're doing anything else, it doesn't matter. So that one, it's just kind of hard to hold somebody's feet to the fire.
Well, then you get rid of the next one also.
Right, and I think that's really the only way that you could go back and claw that is by suing them. So, again, that'll come at more expense. So I recommend discarding these, and we'll obviously incorporate, language with, we'll ask Olson, what is advisable, kind of the bare minimum of, clawback provisions and things like that. But we'll probably put that in a different administrative section.
So we get.
But I'll tell you one thing, we talked about it, was one of the first things you had brought up back before. We could just put a little, we could modify, you'd make somebody that didn't ask the question, what if they do go out and visit, somebody else comes in and says, oh, we want to ask for a facade grant again. Well, you already have language in their frequency that has not received a grant in a 12-month period. Could we make that to where that 12 months is tied to the property and not the person?
Yes, absolutely. And that's language I've incorporated in some
That's
of
penalizing
my
the
other
new owner
programs.
too, though. But that would be penalizing the new owner of the building too. So say Mike gets a facade grant on a building, and then a month later, I buy the building from Mike. Why should I be penalized if I want to redo the facade and put another facade grant?
Well, and that's true, but I think we're talking about some, again, especially when
very
you're talking
slight
about.
chance anything's going to happen to it.
Again, because they have to fund it, pay for it, wait for their reimbursement. And if something happens and they go out that quick, I think this board's been pretty good to look at case by case. But
Oh, sure.
Well, the thing is.
we don't want to make this overly.
We've given out facade grants already.
Yes.
Not
So,
questioning.
so if one of those businesses doesn't last 12 months, we're gonna go after them for, the money they put in. To me, I don't,
Well, right now, it's only 2,500.
Well, true, but they're still paying taxes,
That's right.
still getting sales tax for the purpose of the time they're open. So
And there is and they're improving our future
that's it.
business structure within this city. Whether that be from a facade, whether that
So
be
y'all
from a
good with
wheelchair.
doing away with both of them? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if you saw the flower shop did their facade improvement, and it looks really good.
The flower shop?
Well, that answered my question then. I wonder where we stood with that. I don't know, we
Flower
were
shop?
still waiting
I haven't
on
seen
the
it.
owner or something. Owner of the building.
Have you seen it? Have you
Cool.
seen it?
I've never done it.
It's right across from the bank.
I looked at it all day today. It was nice.
Good.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And I
Have
know-
we wrote their check yet, or no?
I was gonna say, so I haven't brought it back.
Once I finalize it, then I'll go write the check. Well, I will, but finance will.
Yeah, they haven't presented the.
No, of course, I would know if they wrote the check, I haven't signed it.
It's just continued.
No, it's just contingent on Glenn Pendleton, just on, that's all it's contingent on. Yeah, and I would know that, that was my question, I was saying check. Okay, so we're good with doing away with those.
Yes. And now looking kind of at the kind of meat of it in terms of what you get, the bang for the buck, in terms of the current participation and reimbursement thresholds are $5,000 for facade improvement, which includes, generally storefronts, painting, reconstruction, remodeling, sign improvements for a max of $2,500, and then property improvements at a max of $5,000, which would include landscaping, parking lot resurfacing, striping, driveway improvements, and lighting. Obviously, max over 50% of those improvement costs. So a whopping combined maximum participation of $12,500. I am, kind of skipping to the proposed, the total. I think we're looking to double that. And I think 25,000 is a good number to hover around in terms of, that gives us about 4 projects annually. Of course, we can always authorize less on a project if they're not doing one of these, if they're not doing a sign, if they're not doing property. That can be less, but I think we'll really look at doubling it, seeing what that does with the new boundary, and see if we can get some more targeted redevelopment revitalization. I think we can also look to further define or better define facade improvement, sign improvement, property improvement. I've also done in other cities looking at tiers, so lumping different types of improvements together. So like kind of the low-hanging fruit, your lighting or your interior, they're not going to see an interior from a corridor. Those types of things would be obviously be less incentivized in terms of amount. And then moving into your, landscaping, hardscaping, signage, that would be its own tier. And then kind of like the big, improvements, you're doing exteriors, fire extinguishers, fire suppression, utility improvements, accessibility improvements. Those big price tag items would be for your top tier improvement category. So we can further define those in other workshops or board meetings, but that's kind of our initial thoughts on the business improvement grant program.
Everybody good with the proposed changes? Yep, everybody good with that? Awesome. Everybody good?
Great.
Will that AC turn on?
I think it stops us right now.
It is so hot.
I'm fine.
You what?
I'm fine.
It's the light.
You don't got no hair, you sweat up there. Messing my hair up. Number 9, discussion concerning consideration for adopting a neighborhood empowerment zone, otherwise known as a mini Z incentive program.
Thank you, Mr. President. I numbered it wrong on the presentation, but this is item 9. So a little background on a neighborhood empowerment zone. It is a creature of the state statutes, specifically Chapter 37, that authorizes cities to do this. But in order to create a zone, it'd have to demonstrate that it promotes, one, the creation of affordable housing, including manufactured housing in the zone, or an increase in economic development in the zone, or an increase in the quality of social services, education, or public safety provided to the residents of the zone, or the rehabilitation of affordable housing in the zone. And these are or requirements, so it really just has to meet one of these criteria. I think we look at the economic development, how it promotes economic development in the zone. Really, this is high-level discussion because this is a creature of the city and not necessarily the EDC. This would be something that we implement under the auspice of the city. Obviously, development services staff would administer it, so still Danielle and I would be looking at administering this program. This would allow us to accomplish a number of things to help encourage revitalization and redevelopment. And again, probably in an area similar to the business improvement grant program that we're talking about, redevelopment, revitalization. And I know that we'll owe you that map at a future meeting. But it would allow us to reduce barriers to development by reducing waiving permitting fees, so building permits, electrical permits, plumbing permits, mechanical, miscellaneous, and plan review fees, and even inspection fees for properties, eligible properties within the zone. The city is looking to adopt an impact fee. That's another barrier to development, where you're looking at a couple thousands of dollars in impact fees. You might know a little something about that, but plumbing. And then also it would allow us to facilitate an annual property tax reimbursement up to 5 years on improvement value increases. So we'd still be collecting. It's kind of like an abatement, except we're not abating, we're just reimbursing on the back end, but on improvement value, not on the base property value. So there's more meat to this, and I'll get into that with the city council at their September workshop or meetings. But again, just wanted to bring this to your attention as we kind of build out the toolbox for economic development in the city.
I have a question, just so we can kind of put a number to the incentive program. Now, all these permit fees, we know the impact fees are, a couple $1,000. How much would all the permit and inspection fees and plan review, what's a dollar amount on that? What would that?
Well, it varies on.
I know it varies. I know how our permit just kind of like an average, or a ballpark, because when when you're trying to get somebody incentive, they see it, but they're just trying to, want to know, it's going to impact the city too, to a point. Now they're going to get it on the back end, but, I'm kind of just curious on what the cost.
So these are,
Danielle's got a calculator out.
these are two things. So I would say the fee waivers, permit to impact fees, those are what we call soft costs. So that's revenue that we would look to take in normally, but we wouldn't because we're waiting in. It doesn't cost the city. There's no capital outlay necessarily.
Well, but it is still an outlay though. I mean, you still have employees and, to do all of it, you still have some type of outlay. But I see what you're saying. The main,
There's
you're
no
still doing all the
expenditure.
no expenditure except for the city spending the money on the employees to do it all. So there's still
There's still administrative.
well, there's, it actually might,
Well, in this program, it has been asked by some of the developers, mostly what I think we've been asked about something like this is more in your infill areas.
Right.
To where you don't have, you don't have water, you don't have sewer, you don't even have roads in a lot of these situations. Where can we get some assistance to help make it affordable so they can develop? So we've got areas of town within some of these neighborhoods that are older that have not been built out. They're still abandoned, they're still raw land, that they're asking for some incentives to be able to help lower their costs so that they can develop it to where then we can sell it and then we can maybe have a neighborhood in these areas that aren't being developed because of the cost. Now, the downside is that we would be waiving the fees, the revenue that we need greatly as a city. But the long end is we waive those, but then if you can get some homes built, now you've got property taxes on property that you haven't been getting much or very much revenue off of. So there's a give and take, and that's kind of what I think what Millie was bringing to you. Just from your perspective, what is your idea on this? Is this something that you would support, not support?
Well, the reason why I ask this is just because it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, look, this is a dollar amount that we're giving up.
It's a
It's
sales.
our incentive, it's part of the sales pitch.
it's a sales pitch, that's all.
They see, okay, anything is free, but, most people say, okay, I'm getting away, but then once you start putting a dollar amount, they start saying, okay, yeah, I'm getting a little bit extra. 'Cause I mean,
So, yeah.
That's all Mike's doing is how much are we, of that sales pitch, how much are they getting for it?
Okay, so just to break it down to you, roadway easily 60,000. Impact fees, you're looking at maybe a low cost, I would say 20. It's gonna depend on your, easily maybe another 20 on that. Regular building, electrical, your NEPs and all your other permits, maybe a good 8,000-10,000 on that. So it racks up pretty quickly.
$100,000.
And that doesn't even count your feasibility, which is automatically 5,000 for your feasibility study. So it's gonna rack up pretty
It's a
quickly.
significant amount.
And that's just estimating that, all of your fees are going by square footage.
And meter size.
Everything, yeah. Everything takes into account for that.
Well, it's just something I wanted to, so we had an idea that when we say, look, we're giving these incentives out, we'll put them out. That we have a visual of what kind of incentives that we're giving. So that way, because when you start saying permit fees, a lot of people say, oh, I pulled a permit.
It's $100.
Or,
and then, yeah.
and really, in reality, it's not, because once you get in the commercial side, and you start doing that, the fees increase, and a lot of people don't know that, that's why I asked just for the information. I know I'm gonna put you on the spot, but.
No, it's fine. It hurts me. When I saw it.
Yeah, I know, but in the long run, the amount of property tax.
Right, yeah.
That you're gonna get in the long run is well worth it. And then too, what you're doing, you're developing an area the way you want to develop, instead of just throwing something here and there and piecing it together. So property values stay up,
exactly.
everything.
And my question comes directly off that last statement you made. Just to be clear, if we identify whatever this zone is, say this area or that area, that doesn't preclude them, all current zoning rules stay in effect for whatever that area is up.
Yes, and I would even go further in other cities where we've implemented this tool. You know, if it's new development, then you actually have to participate with some percent masonry or, you know, these architectural standards. So yes, we're going to give you this incentive, but we're also asking for some aesthetics and, you know, design criteria in return.
I was gonna ask, are we gonna put into, because I know like a lot of them do, they'll make them put a section out for a park or something. You know, a lot of times they gotta put their detention ponds in, so what they'll do is they'll utilize that area more for a park area. So that's something that we would say, hey, you know, if you're gonna do this is part of the beautification side of it, and it's part of the
Green space.
Yeah, so this program, it can contemplate that. It's really intended for like established, you know, legal lots of record, just as a way to incentivize people to develop those, you know, that, you know, infill and redevelopment. Not to say that we can't tackle a huge greenfield project with that. We have to look at that more closely, but it would be possible.
So right now you're more focusing on stuff that we already have available inside the city limits at this point right now, versus somebody buys a tract of land and want to be inside the city and develop a subdivision.
Further on, yeah, so this would be applicable to residential and commercial in that area. You know, residential you can think of, but I forget what addition it is, but in like that area south line, you know, if you look at it, there's a lot of streets, like ghost streets, no development, because those are lots that are platted. There's no infrastructure there. So this would go towards helping the developers spread on, you know, the cost and help put them in the black to make projects more feasible and economical for them.
Tanglewood, that's some areas that are not going to go down.
Well, this could be a very significant impact.
And then you can use it for like your downtown or your business district area. So if they're going to go in and new business coming in to help remodel, and pull remodel permits and all that, that could be a portion of that to help incentivize getting those businesses and redevelopment in there. Now, one of the things that we do have to consider though is some of these do have actual costs. So, you know, we've got a third-party inspector, so, you know, some of those we may not, those permits cover those costs, so those permits we may not be able to waive because we ended up having to pay the third party to do those inspections. You know, but also it could be something that EDC helps cover on the commercial side.
Well, and that's why I was literally telling Emilio when you were saying that, is that something the EDC on the commercial side could step in and help cover, you know, we can't do residential. But on the back end, we could do the commercial side of it.
Kind of like a bad debt write-off or something, because you know, the first year, you know, to Mike's point, we'd be able to come back with some data to say, here's the cost of what we waived, all the soft costs we ate, but here's the value on paper of that the city's that's now going to be taxable value. You'll be able to see pretty quickly how far that goes.
Let's say after 2 years, it's deemed not worth it, can be amended to remove that zone, or is this?
So, under this state law, we have to renew those guidelines every 2 years.
Okay. So you have the option down the road to renew or
Yes, subsequent councils to make that determination. So that's kind of it for this program. Again, wanted to bring it to your attention, kind of put it in the ether. It's something that this will be going to council, obviously in a more cogent manner and format, but this is kind of the early bullet points of this.
I'm just glad to see we have something to offer.
Yes. I think it's a good idea. I like it. And I think on the commercial side of it, like you said, Scott, you know, EDC could help out on the commercial side of it for sure.
Awesome.
Any other thoughts, concerns?
Commercial people.
What's the ROI? We gotta spend money to make money.
That's really,
So,
realistically,
yeah.
they'll spend money to make money, no matter what.
Well, you're doing it in the proper way, you know.
Right.
You're developing things, you're planning for growth. You know, it's not the unplanned growth that hits you and causes chaos, so.
I mean, think about it.
We have those
The city
communities
has some
already.
control
Yeah.
of what's going on, so.
I was about to say, I'd rather waive a little bit up front than waive 10 years of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that we're there anywhere else or anything,
But the real beauty is, again, is going back to it, you can put masonry, you could put certain standards in place where, you know, cities used to be able to regulate. The state law 2 sessions ago removed material standards where cities would require certain material standards for development within the communities. This kind of allows you to go back, we've got this program, but you have to meet this criteria
Take advantage
to be able to
of
do
it.
that. You know, in our downtown, we want it to look a certain way, and so you have to meet the standard.
Okay, I think everybody's on board with that. I think that's a really good idea. Number 10, discussion concerning consideration of the city's adoption of tax abatement guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I'll try to be quick with this. As you know, tax abatements, when we talk about new business attraction and industry recruitment, that's kind of one of the underlying pieces in terms of your incentive kind of toolbox that industries want to know about when they're assessing your region for possible site selection. A key factor is, what incentives are available. This is, kind of chief among them in terms of, regionally, statewide. Again, as a creature of the city, this isn't a sales tax program. This is obviously not regarding property tax. But our current tax abatement guidelines are pretty weak, to say the least. And I apologize that I ran out of time this afternoon to incorporate these into the slides, but I'll send out the tax abatement guidelines that we currently expired in 23. So we're looking to either renew or adopt new guidelines. But formally, as most recent as 23, the minimum criteria for tax abatements was that it had to have a minimum 10-year life expectancy for the facility, I guess. It had to increase the city's tax revenue by at least $10,000 annually after the abatement period, based upon the city's tax rate at the time the abatement is granted. It has to create at least 25 new jobs. That's actually not a bad requirement. That's pretty high comparatively to most areas. Yeah.
That's probably too high for our.
I worked for our town and it was like 5 jobs. So
That's a little too high for you.
So that.
Should probably be 2 jobs.
And then it shall not have the effect of transferring existing primary employment from one part of the city to another, which is a good requirement to have. But again, that's a pretty low bar for just to say this is the minimum criteria for consideration. So
Thank you, Roger.
going forward, certainly as we bring this to council, we want to incorporate more criteria just so we can ensure that we're being good fiduciaries of the city's tax revenue.
Can you email those notes to us?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Again, I won't get it. I know we're running late on time, but it doesn't contemplate terms of the agreement. So 5, 6, 10 years, 10 years being the max allowed under state law. It doesn't specify any tiered terms. So starting at year 1, 100%, 80, 70, 60, 50. It doesn't do any of that. It doesn't have anything about qualifying facilities. Typically, manufacturing, service distribution, logistics, office buildings, regional entertainment, research and development, or other industries. It doesn't talk about authorized investments, specifically new facilities, expansions, or modernizations of these types of qualifying facilities. And it doesn't talk about abatement eligible, it doesn't talk about the improvements eligible for abatements, so buildings, structures, fixed machinery, equipment, site improvements, office space to support operations, etc. It doesn't talk about what's not abated. kind of vague. So obviously we want to not abate the land, the existing improvements, construction that's already in progress, personal property, hotels, housing, pipelines, fuel storage, deferred maintenance, property that doesn't have a useful life beyond 50 years. So our current criteria of 2 years is really in that regard. So it doesn't specify any economic criteria for the improvements. It says $10,000 annually after the abatement period in terms of tax revenue. But the issue, it's hard to do the math on. I think it's easier just to say, here's a minimum investment, and then we can do the math on the back end of that to figure out what that will generate revenue after 2 years. But so some cities have a minimum investment of $5 million. We can do 2,500,000. We can look at that number and configure it any way, but we just don't have that specified in the current criteria. You know, so a lot of cities, you know, specify they should retain or create at least 5 primary jobs. Ours, I think, was a little aspirational at 25. So not to say that, you know, we've talked about recently projects that might generate 200 jobs. That's good, but we don't want to disincentivize advanced manufacturing that might have a lower headcount, but just would just be just as beneficial as something that had a higher headcount. So that's just, you know, very high level conversation about, you know, tax abatement guidelines that are going to go forward to City Council. Again, it doesn't involve sales tax, so it wouldn't come before this board, but I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts and opinions.
I think the two things that stick out to me the most are the amount of employees and the 5 million. That 5 million should be probably, I would think, cut in half. And then the employees, as we are going to find out in a few minutes, in executive session, yes, we had a conversation recently in regards to a company that is, I think it was a minimum of approximately 60 employees on up to a few hundred employees. And so that, you know, that's like a very rare occurrence, you know, to even have a conversation, much less an implementation. And so I don't know what y'all's opinion. I mean, I really think that, like he said, 5 employees, was that Baytown? And we're not even close to the size of Baytown. So,
I would just like to see how some of these, you know, similar programs are done in cities that are, you know, in different cities.
Of equal
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
Of our equal size.
I mean, because again, we want to be, because I agree that 25 employees is a lot, but I think that you know, we got to set it up to where it's realistic, where we have the wins there, but it does incentivize industry. So I'd like to see some programs that we know that are in effect in other places that are, you know, I know we're not going to find them exact, but just maybe see how some other ones are structured.
Well, and I think that as a business owner, when we do tax abatement, when we look at the guidelines for a municipality on this, and let's say that you are a few employees off from that guideline, any smart business owner is going to add on some employees, even if they have to go sit and do nothing all day, to, you know, for the correct, obviously, for the correct tax abatement, for the correct incentive. I mean, if I can save money from in this situation, and I'm an employee off, you don't think I'm going to hire an employee like real quick? We're going to be hired like really.
And you can tier it too. I mean,
absolutely. And you can tier it towards
the more you
5,
invest,
10.
the more you invest, the more employees, the more you can.
I agree with that 100%. I don't think this is just
somebody coming in with a retail
one
doing a
program
$3 million investment.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't get the same as somebody coming in and doing a $50 million investment with 200 employees. I mean, you're always going to give them more, so you can set that criteria in different tiers.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to recommend, that you break it down to different different tiers of seed, or a smaller company trying to come in and with the potential of growing bigger, and then you get your mid-size and then your large, so that way, you know, the bigger companies don't get the best incentive, but the other ones are still, you're giving them something that makes it worthwhile to come in.
Absolutely. I definitely think a tiered program, and unfortunately in Cleveland, you might have to have several tiers of events.
Well, I think, yeah, I think with that,
It starts
the probably on the level of participation. So, like, we might do a 10-year term at 100% if you're generating, if your improvements are like north of 10 million or something.
correct. Yeah, it's gonna be
Obviously, 50% or even tiered down lower than that if it's, you know, an improvement of 2,500,000. So we'll play with that, and we'll look at some benchmark cities. But I mean, aspirational ones like Berkshire is probably a good example of their population, but as it relates to the industry that they've been able to attract there. And Mount Belvieu is a good one, but also, I mean, petrochemically wise, the solid and all of that is a big factor. But we can look at some good benchmark cities.
Cool. Anything else? Our next one's going to be executive session, so everybody ready for that? It is, yes, everybody ready for that? It is 8:33 p.m. We are back at 9:46 PM from executive session on number 11 with no action taken. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
I got a motion by Mike Buckley and a second by Michelle Wyatt for adjournment. We are adjourned.